Namaste and welcome. Today's video is more about me and my journey into channeling light language, how and when all this began. And the reason why I'm sharing this is there are two reasons. One is for all those people who are on their spiritual journey where they are witnessing similar happenings and symptoms, and I think this video will help them or provide them some sort of support to know that whatever that's happening to them or all that they are going through is a part of the journey. So do not panic or do not get upset with especially the physical manifestations of the symptoms related to spiritual awakening. It's just you vibrating higher, and to match the vibration, your body needs to undergo certain changes, which may be in very many different ways. So if you're having constant headaches or feeling some sort of vibrations in your body, or sometimes chills and heart palpitations, as long as I don't want to bring too much of medical intervention into it, but yes, of course, I do not neglect that. Once you know everything's fine with you, I'm not saying that you don't go to a doctor, but all I'm trying to say is that when you know that there is nothing medically wrong with you and still you're having it, then probably you are vibrating at a higher frequency, and these are just symptoms of you awakening to higher codes of light. So this video will help many of you who may be in need of support to know that there is nothing wrong. Nothing wrong is happening to you. Just be patient and be observant of whatever's happening, and take good care of yourself, your mind, body. Drink plenty of water and be happy. So that's one category of people that this video may be helpful to. And the other reason why I am sharing this video is well, it could be for all those people who just are aware, are watching it for awareness, who are just curious to know how this happens, and just curious to know about another story of somebody's initiation and awakening to light codes. So let me start with how this all initially began. I, on this channel, am mostly channeling light language sounds, singing or sounds, but initially when I started, it was not the sounds, it was the glyphs, the written codes. I do have some videos where I have used the pictures of the codes that I channel as a background. So it was writing that started first for me, and then the sounds. And if I look back uh, in times, it was gestures really which started first, but I was not aware of why I would move hands in the way that I would. That was like when I was really small. I was a teenager when I would do that in front of the mirror, and not knowing why I was doing that, but now I know why I was doing that. So I guess it was hand gestures first, and then the written, and now the sounds. And of course, there are times when I combine the sounds with written or the codes in the air that I make in some of the videos, some of the channeling and activations. So it is 2019 now. This all began not as I'm going to discuss first the written, light language written codes. And even before I started writing the codes or the symbols, what I was writing was not really symbols initially. Like 2013 was when I started drawing, not doodling, but drawing on paper. Almost like every night I would do that, only to release stress initially. I was just letting it work as a form of art therapy for me. So I would just take a paper and pencil, and I would just start to draw patterns, not knowing what I was going to draw, but I would just let it flow through me, whatever was coming out on paper. And I used to practice this like almost every night. And soon it started feeling like this was some sort of meditation for me, and some sort of like an automatic writing taking place, because it was coming from up above, was all that I could make out of it, because I knew I wasn't drawing it. I was just in a way channeling it, but it was too early for me to use words like channel at that time. So I would draw, like sometimes those would be mandalas and or some sacred geometry, not knowing it was sacred geometry at that point in time. I was just drawing them, and later I came across just almost the same patterns, the same images or drawings that I was doing actually existed and known as ancient symbols, or some of the famous symbols of alchemy. Some of them were considered as mandalas. And then with time, as I was practicing it almost every day, there was like a connection that I developed with this kind of channeling or drawing. Normally whenever I would sit down to draw, I wouldn't know what I was going to do, but as I started to, my clairs got refined, like my knowing and my hearing abilities all got very refined during that time. So when I would start to draw, I would hear, or I would know I was doing something to do with the vibration of number 4. So not just sacred geometry, but numbers also came into it. And or sometimes elements would come into it. I knew there was something to do with fire that I was drawing or sketching, or whatever channeling that I was doing. So this continued for like almost 2.5 years. 2013 I started, 2014, 2015, 2016, and 2017. Some changes started happening, almost sudden, I would say. Started happening in my drawings. I was not able to draw the way I was drawing for the past 3 years. I was very quick and like almost spontaneous to start those drawings, especially with flowers. Like usually flowers would come up very easily, and so I would start with a flower most of the time, or a diamond shape. But to my surprise, in 2017, it was very surprising for me, because I was trying to draw those same things that I was drawing for the past almost 3 years, but I was just not able to draw it. And these drawings that I was doing was not something that I was doing at a conscious level. So I was leaving my mind, my brain, my conscious thoughts outside of me when I would sit down with a paper and a pen or a pencil. So whenever I sat down in 2017, I was just not able to draw those flowers or those patterns or symbols, if there were any known. Those were mostly like known by the time it was 2017. I knew most of it, what it meant. But in 2017, this strange thing started happening. I was finding it very strange, because I didn't know where this was heading to. And then I started seeing myself drawing or writing these kind of symbols or glyphs. Not even glyphs, I would just call them, like, for me it was just kind of scribbling at the beginning. That is all I could make out of it. For me, this was like, I think what am I doing? I'm scribbling. At least I was making some flowers and some patterns before, but now I'm just like, what is this? This doesn't make any sense to me. And yet I'm doing it, because I had always, since past 6-7 years or so, I had started to trust my intuition and follow the guidance. So I knew I was guided to do this, but I just couldn't make a head or tail out of what I was doing. So, but nevertheless, I let it flow, because I was guided. My spiritual team, my spirit guides, my angels, ancestors, everyone, they were guiding me to just go with it, even if you don't understand. So I would take out time, like almost every second, third day after my meditation. I would take out some time, sit with a paper and pencil, and just let it flow, whatever was coming, not knowing what it was. And then sooner I was like writing something that looked, to me, it appeared like it was some sort of distorted Arabic symbols, but I knew it was not Arabic. I tried sharing some of these writings of mine to some of my friends, but as luck could have it, nobody helped me. Like they didn't know what that was, and there was a reason why I could not get any help at that point in time, because if had I got help, I would not had trusted my intuition, and I would not have undergone all the patience and practice and self-help that I went through for the next 1 year or so, when I was just trusting the guidance. And then a point came in when I would just sit down with a paper and pencil and would ask my guides, okay, tell me, what am I supposed to do? And then, okay, write. So I write. And then I initially started, well, I would just write whichever way, but then I was I would hear messages, and I was guided to write from the right hand side to the left. That's when I felt like this was more Arabic, because it was starting from the right to the left. And that's how my guides kind of corrected me or modified me into writing this. And they said, okay, write from right to left. So I did that. I was just practicing like how kids do handwriting practice, something like that. But still, I didn't know what those symbols meant, or they were like just too big, or too just nothing for me to understand anything in them. So then, as I was practicing every single day, then I asked my guides, and like, what is this, and where is this leading me to? Like, I'm just writing like this every single day. I don't even know what I'm doing, and like, where am I heading, and what is this? And so I was told that it was very funny but sweet and interesting that I was told by my guides that just practice it and remember how a kindergartner or a primary school child starts or learns writing in the first place when they're writing A, like especially with cursive. That's how I was explained, because I have a background where I learned cursive as a small child. So I was made to understand that how a child starts writing. Initially, they don't know how to make those perfect curves. If you're writing an A, a cursive A, you need to first like learn to move your pencil. First of all, get a proper grip of your pencil, and then move it properly, and then practice it. And then with time, you get the perfect curves, and the perfect A or B, whichever alphabet it is, comes into shape, comes into reality. So that is how this is going to work for you. So anyways, I followed the guidance, and so I started writing. With time, it got improved. It's now, if I look back to what I was channeling or practicing in 2017 vis-a-vis now in 2019, there's a whole lot of difference, and I'm still learning, I'm still exploring, and I'm enjoying it. So this was the written part, how I started with light language, symbols or glyphs or writing or codes. So while I was writing, sometime in 2018, by the end of 2018, so almost like 1 year had passed when me practicing the writing. So around 2018, when every time I would sit down to write, it was funny for me to even acknowledge this was happening to me, but today I'm kind of fine to share this with everyone. That time I did not share it with anybody. So every time when I sat down to write, my tongue, the tip of my tongue would start to vibrate. Like there was this it was like a mixture of tingling and vibration, and that sort of a thing happening to the tip of my tongue. And it was very funny and weird and strange for me to have that sensation. And I knew it was related to what I was doing, because I have experienced similar things in past 10-15 years, when every time I have Kundalini awakening symptoms coming up or something or the other, I know it's nothing that I could relate to any medical disorders, or nothing to be worried about it in the form of medical inconvenience or anything like that. I knew this was related to this, and it would specifically start each time I sat down to write, or just before I sat down to write. my tongue would do like that, like, and then that would heat up my tongue. So it was like a burning sensation on the tip of my tongue. It was even funny for me to think about sharing it with anyone at that point in time, that hey, I was like, what, like my tongue burns or what? But yeah, I was observing it like almost on a daily basis. This was happening. Meanwhile, a friend of mine who channels light language, spoken as well as in the form of glyphs. I was listening to her meditations where in between the meditation she channels light language. Something that I was always fond of, each time I listened to her, she was the first person whom I heard, listened, speaking light language when I didn't even know what this was, and I would ask her, what is this, what language is this, whatever it is, but it feels like known to me, and it would often bring tears to my eyes. I didn't know why, but there was something warm that I would feel in my heart each time I would listen to her. I didn't know what it was, and I was told that it's not really any language, because initially I thought it's probably a foreign language, so I don't understand what it is. But then later I came to know it was light language. So while all this was happening, me writing and my tongue burning, and simultaneously listening to my friend, one day I thought, okay, can I also like do that verbal light language thing? And I tried, but I just felt I was being too silly, and I felt like I was just making up, so I just stopped. This happened a little before my tongue started to burn and to vibrate. So later, much later, I realized why my tongue was doing that, because when I practiced, like for once, when I practiced light language, verbal channeling, and I found myself stupid and silly and like I was making up, it was after that this thing was happening to my tongue each time I write, because now today, like later, I can connect to it and I know what was happening. It was time for me to speak up and to bring out the sounds through my tongue, but I was resisting, and so that was the reason basically why it was happening, because I like, spiritual journey and all these awakening symptoms are an ongoing process. So when you're done with one level, you have to go to the next. If you hold on, you will stay in that vibration for as long as you're not ready to go to the next, but you have to move to the next. So it might just, I'm sorry for the outside sounds, there's not much I can do about it. So I will wait for them to go. I'm sorry. Where was I? So my tongue was burning, and yeah, I knew I was holding on, but that time I didn't quite knew I was doing that. But yes, then what happened was one day the burning became too much. so much so that I felt like I was getting blisters on my tongue. And when I looked in the mirror, my tongue was somewhat pinkish red, but they weren't blisters, but I felt like it was really making me feel like I had blisters on my tongue because I could not even eat spicy food. It was burning. It had got to that extent. The reason being, I was holding back. I did not want to speak because I just felt I was going to make a fool out of myself, and I don't think this is natural, or I don't know. I'm just doing it on my own. Then one day, in front of the mirror, I just started to speak. And when I started to speak, this was the time when this inflammation was like at its high, and I just couldn't take it. So I just started to, for me at that point in time, I was just blabbering, but I just started off. So I just started to. And then while I was channeling or whatever that I was doing, I realized that it was coming from somewhere else. And that moment in time, I realized I was not making up. This is not me really, And then this kept on happening for like few days continuously, and I was doing it just in front of the mirror. Probably my guides knew I was more comfortable there. I don't know, but and this burning was like continuing for those many days, and I still have it sometimes. So that's when I started, and with practice, see, there's always this patience and observation with things. You just have to be patient, and you have to observe. Look out for what it means, the things before and after it, and then with time you'll figure out really what this is all about. So when I was practicing it every day, I came to a point where I was sure that I was not making up, and I was sure that this was coming from up above, and I was confident enough that this not only just gave me confidence in my trusting the guidance related to the channeling, but it also enhanced my psychic skills, because I was still not looking for information outside. Like I wasn't googling, or I wasn't like doing Google search, and I wasn't looking for information on internet, because I had got so much involved and busy with my own communication with the universe and my guides, that I had started to trust the guidance and my intuition more than anything else. And this is the best thing that I received during this time. I didn't have to look for answers outside of me. Everything was there. I just need to be patient and be observant and ask for it. So I would ask and I would receive. I didn't know that these were related to star seed origins or ancient civilizations or where and how, but I was just following the guidance, and I was asking. Every time I had a doubt, I would ask my guides, okay, tell me, what is this like, and then all these names like Star Sirius, like Syrian Codes and Sounds of Lemuria, all this started coming on its own to me. I am a clairaudient. I don't like to say like that, but yeah. A lot of my clairs are open, so I hear and I sense and I know and I see from the visions that I get in my third eye. So a lot of these things happen together. So while I was still exploring what I was channeling, and by now I knew this was light language, because I was also once in a while searching the internet and things were coming to me. Now I was um, that time when I was not knowing what it was, that time was over now. The information had started coming to me. Yet I would experiment and look for answers within, and would sometimes go onto internet or talk to someone just to get more clarification or just to confirm what I knew. And that also I did for like only few times. When I was sure this is it, I didn't need to confirm. Like, I did not consciously stepped out of myself to get confirmations on what I was receiving. So yeah, like with the Syrian codes, I heard at first that these are the Syrian codes, and then I went to research on it, and yes, those were similar to the ones that other people on earth are channeling as Syrian codes. So it was just a few times that I needed the confirmation, and I was onto it. I knew what I was doing. More than me knowing, it was me trusting the intuition, not knowing really, but I've started trusting my intuition, and I stopped doubting myself. I stopped being apprehensive of what I am speaking, as long as I have full faith in myself, and I'm fully connected to my spiritual team. I know I'm not doing wrong. So that's how the sounds started. All the DNA activation videos that I have done, everything that I am sharing on this channel is all guided, because a person like me would never show up on the camera. I have always been camera shy, and I could never imagine myself making YouTube videos. So this is all pure guidance. In fact, I had made a few videos like almost a year ago, and again, that time I was not ready to accept what was happening to me, and I was just blocking myself. So within a few weeks after making all those videos, I deleted them, and because I was not comfortable. But I just had to go through this time of learning, self-learning, and trusting my intuition, trusting the knowing in my connection with the universe. And we all have it. We all have it. It's just that either we are doubting it, or we are spiritually not ready for it. We often block our own path. So when it's time, like, it'll just automatically, naturally come to you, effortlessly, absolutely. And so that's how it all started with me. The gestures, the hand gestures that I do, the videos on YouTube on this channel, is, yes, it is also light language channeling. And as I mentioned before in this video when I started, that I was doing them as a child in front of the mirror, and I thought that was just some dance steps or something I was doing. But 3 years ago, when I was in China, I was learning Qigong there, and my stay in China for almost 2 years I was there, and my stay in China was again another star added to my spiritual journey. It made me not only vibrate higher and learn a lot about life. Mm, but it also, excuse me, it also opened me up towards receiving light language in the form of gestures, because I was practicing Qigong. It's all about hand movements that I was doing, especially like the form that I was practicing. And it's been like 3 years and I'm still practicing it. And it is the practice of Qigong that made me more comfortable in channeling light language hand gestures. And it just helped me be more open to receiving and expressing myself, or myself, as well as the messages that I'm receiving, and then expressing them or channeling them through hand gestures. Practice of Qigong has just made me more comfortable in doing hand gestures. So everything is connected, actually, and not just in my case. I think with everyone. I mean, once you just start being a little more sensitive to your inner world and its connection to the outside world, then you realize that there's no difference between the inside and the outside. It's all connected. It's all one. And so that's how it has been. I hope this video helps some of you, even if it helps one person, I'll be happy. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time. Namaste.